All right, guys, here we go. Happy Wednesday to you. It's another edition of the Joe Raineri Show brought to you by uwager.eu. It is where America bets. It is where this show bets. And coming up, our good friend Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. He's going to stop by. We've got NBA playoff action tonight. We got to get to the bottom of 3 more game number 2s. Not nearly as exciting from a standpoint of line movement, other than a lot of people expecting some blowouts here in a few of them, if not all of them. Much like we got in Game 1 with not only Milwaukee and Detroit, but let us not forget that Utah got their asses handed to them by Houston as well. And the question is, will it happen again? What are the trends? What do the angles tell us? And nobody does TNA better than our good friend Ralph Michaels at wagertalk.com. So we will talk some hoops with him. We'll go ahead and deliver you, our friends from trendybets.com, another Major League Baseball play as well as a NBA playoff game here tonight. Again, delivered for us yesterday with their free plays. And they are killing it as usual. So plenty to get to here. Over the next 25, 30 minutes. Get your number 2 pencil out, guys. Get ready. Ralph is going to bring it. He always does. This guy's a plethora of information, stats, figures, opinions. He'll even go ahead. I think he's got a couple of unders still that he likes. And I think he's got one over in the NBA that he likes tonight. Plus, we got a couple of plays in Major League Baseball. We'll give you the trends. We'll give you what you need to know. Hopefully, we'll make it rain for you, and ultimately, we hope you'll join us on Make It Rain weekday morning, 6A to 9A on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Pretty simple. Download the app. It is free. You can do it by the FNTSY. That is right, FNTSY. Search it in the Google Play Store as well as the Apple Store, and boom, you guys, you got it. So we got to get to that. I want to thank Charles Meshell from the Offshore Gaming Association, 8-1 on his Champions League plays here today on the as I believe Tottenham or some ham. So I have no idea. Anyway, some sort of ham advanced. Man City did not, and such is life. I guess Liverpool ended up winning as over Porto. And again, I'm relaying names at these points. I have no idea what any of those things mean. What I do know is that he was calling goal after goal after goal right here on the show. He shows up. The plays he gave you, 9 of them, they all cashed, 8 out of 9. And I believe the 9th, people ended up getting screwed. Man City, I guess, had a goal at the very end of the game that was somehow waved off. They seem to have a nasty habit of doing that in this sport, which is why it aggravates the living crap out of me, and I would probably never bet it. Is anytime you got a dude going to a TV and still can't get the call right. Holy jeez, you got an entire country and fans around the world looking at a game and you can't even get the call right. It's beyond me. So, but Charles nailed it, 8-1. Congratulations, Charles Meshell. And, of course, you will be hearing more and more from him as we move along here through the weeks. Plenty of soccer action, plenty of ways for you guys to be able to profit in the world of sports investing, but more importantly, in the world of soccer investing. He is definitely going to be our guy. All right, we're going to get Ralph up here in just a minute. Do want to thank our good friends at Miami Acura for making this possible, supporting us as they do, as they have. And we encourage you guys, if you have a, you're in the market for a car, whether it be a new certified pre-owned car, used car, it doesn't make a difference. We talk about getting the right number, right? Always, you're betting numbers, not teams. Doesn't make a difference if it says Sale, Tanaka, Pinstripes. Doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Ultimately, you're looking for the best number. Same thing when you go car shopping, which is what Miami Acura does. They deliver on numbers. And I'm telling you, before you sign your name to anything, make sure you visit MiamiAcura.com. Go shopping, see what you can get, and then, of course, stop there. I promise you they'll beat them, whether it be the all-new 2019 RDX or any one of the hundreds, if not thousands, of certified pre-owned vehicles that they have access to. It's all about giving you the best price, the best deal, the best customer service. That's what they do at Miami Acura. 16601 South Dixie, Palmetto Bay, in the 305. Outside of that, guys, just do yourself a favor. Go to MiamiAcura.com. That is MiamiAcura.com. All right, and coming up, we'll give you those great little trendy bets, free plays here, Major League Baseball, as well as the NBA. And, of course, we got a couple of big Major League Baseball plays tonight. We'll go ahead and tell you what those are. But first, Let's get our man Ralph Michaels on the phone here, WagerTalk.com. Guys, NBA season is here, right? Playoffs. We're a couple of games in. We got a full slate tonight. A lot of people throwing a whole lot of terms around. A lot of people, I don't know, some guys have done well. Some guys are scratching their head going, I don't know what to make of Detroit. So here's what we're going to do. We're bringing a good friend here, Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com, try to kind of point us in the right direction, help us sort through it all. And Ralph, so far here, we got round one of the playoffs, couple of games in a book, game two's tonight here and a couple of the other series. What are your early impressions here so far from what you've seen? It's I wouldn't necessarily say it's chalk because we have had some, higher seeds win in San Antonio, some lower seeds. But overall, what have you seen thus far?
Well, we may have talked on an earlier episode that, this year the scoring has been historic in the NBA. I mean, we are just seeing absolutely crazy totals. And in fact, this year in the regular season, the NBA totals were over 11 points higher than last year. Sometimes you get a point or a two from one year to the next, but the average totals just went through the roof. And a lot of that carried over to the postseason. So it's absolutely no surprise to me that so far in the postseason, since through last night's games, the over-unders are now 3-10. So there's only been 3 overs. One of those, of course, that historic Golden State game against the Clippers. But I still think there's going to be value here in the rest of this first round. With the unders, we'll be talking about a couple of those games that I like tonight. But to me, teams are going to start to play defense during the regular season. It was almost like the All-Star game where, you never saw teams play defense and the pace quickened so much. And it was a different ball game than we're accustomed to. But, once we get past this first round and teams are in that next level and you're playing an opponent for a third, fourth, or fifth time in a row, under in my book as a general rule, although I do like one of the overs tonight. So again, not an overall rule, but if in question, lean with the under.
A couple of the things that we have heard, one of the big buzzwords here, Ralph, zigzag. That's what we're hearing, right? We've got these game ones, certainly in the first round, where a team loses, and people are swearing that if you bet on, you take the other team, the loser in game one and game two, that you're bound to go ahead and clear the number. And it seems to have worked, but, you tell us, is that a very dangerous theory to blindly just go, well, they lost game one, they're going to win game two?
Well, zigzags worked in the 90s and early 2000s, and I think there's 2 reasons why, even though it has worked so far this year, as a general rule, I don't think it's going to be profitable. Number one is we used to have so much parity in the NBA. Yes, you had the Michael Jordan teams, but I mean, you had teams like Detroit that were playing incredible defense against them, and games were much closer scoring. Now we have these super teams, blame it on, LeBron going to Miami with Bosh or Durant or whatever you want, or, even CP3 going to Houston and giving them a couple guys that, the teams are different. We have elite teams now. So, yes, Toronto lost the first round, and then they came back, and the Clippers won after losing the first game. But I think those are more anomalies. If you want to look back at the last 2 years in the playoffs, not including this year, but the entire 2 playoffs, if you blindly bet a team that is off a loss, and that's basically the zigzag, if your team lost, no matter the situation, you bet on them the next game, well, you are 64-84, 43% against the spread. If you want to bet them off a home loss, so that might be the time I think, well, yeah, this team lost at home. Now they're really going to bounce back. You're 20-28, 41.7%. So not only has zigzag not worked, it's almost been a complete negative. So, teams, one instance where the zigzag has worked no matter when it is teams playing off back-to-back If you're a home favorite off back-to-back losses,
okay,
a lot's going to be made of these trends. So you go on the road and you lose the first two games, and now you're coming home for game 3.
Oklahoma
That
City.
is a situation that has been popular.
Yep.
Those teams are 17-6, 73.9%. Because you're a home favorite, you're still the better team. Your fans are excited. And really, the old adage is this. In the playoffs, the series doesn't really start until the home team loses.
Yep.
If the home team keeps serve, you're going to have that game 5 or game 7, which means something. So, don't necessarily throw away an 0-2 team if they lost 2 games on the road, because in this day and age, that third game is really a big motivational point for both the players and the fans. So off back-to-back home losses, the zigzag clearly has worked.
You just described Oklahoma City, back-to-back losses on the road to Portland, and now here they are. They're going to be home for Game 3, so certainly something to keep an eye on there. Ralph Michaels joining us, WagerTalk.com. And, Ralph, a couple of other ideas and trends that are taking shape. You've got 2 teams taking tonight. The Pistons and the Utah Jazz got their asses handed to them in Game 1. Utah by Houston, of course. Milwaukee just beating up on Detroit. Here we go again. I got a lot of people telling me, and I'm hearing a lot of value here, very undervalued, these teams, because of how bad they got beat. We're not seeing a lot of line movement because I'm still seeing 6.5, 7 for Utah. I'm still seeing 15 for Detroit here. Are they undervalued, these teams that get beat up after a big loss?
Well, double-digit dogs that are off a straight-up loss, like the Detroit Pistons, have been about a 56% play, so they've made money. But the difference with the Detroit Pistons is you're without Blake Griffin. You're without your best player. You're without your only height that can fend Giannis. So the Detroit Pistons are not your normal double-digit team, because you are a poor double-digit team that then now loses your best player. Continuing talking about that game for tonight, it is a situation where I like the under, especially the first quarter and the first half. Blake Griffin, of course, is out for the series, probably out for the playoffs. Well, Detroit's not going to play anymore, so the series is the playoffs for the Pistons. But they need someone to guard Giannis. Thon Maker is their only other hope to slow down the Greek Freak. And Thon Maker in the Game 1 had 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes. Well, that allowed Milwaukee to jump out and score 25 points the first half of the first quarter. So in the first 6 minutes of the game, the Bucks put up 25 points. Detroit's only hope is to keep Maker down in the post, to not have him get fouled. Milwaukee will try to drop the ball down low to Giannis, and I think Detroit really slows the pace of this game to try not to get run out of the building. So I think take advantage again. I like under in that game, both first quarter and first half.
And you got, of course, Houston poured it on to Utah, but again, you're looking at a relatively low number compared for Houston, right? I mean, Utah was one of the best teams in the second half this year along with Houston. Utah's a pretty good defensive team. And yet we're looking at a, 211, 212 kind of number is what it opened up at. I think it's been pushed up a little bit to 214 right now. What do you expect from Houston? The number hasn't moved, and a lot of people are using that as, well, if the number doesn't move, what has really changed from Game 1 to Game 2? I should probably take Houston, right?
Well, yes and no. Talking to the bookmakers, they feel Game 2, no team's going to play as good as the first game or as bad as the second. You have to have a slow memory. Now, as we're talking, that line did jump now to Houston 7, so there is some Houston money that just came in. Now, my thought is this. You have Houston, and they are a 4 seed, and this game is lined not quite like a 4 seed, because a lot of times the 4 or 5 seed would be, about a 4 or 5 point line. But Houston, to me, is really a number 2 seed. They had so many injuries early with CP3 out and then with Capella out, and they never had their trio playing together. Well, I think they do now. And with a team that plays decent enough defense like Houston and that can press the pace against Utah, Utah doesn't have the players or the depth to keep up with this. And when you take the Houston Rockets and you look at what they did, and then you say, well, On top of that performance, Harden, I think, was 11 of 26. I don't have the number in front of me. So when you have Harden shooting those kind of numbers and Houston still pulling away, well, imagine if he shoots a little more normal towards his normal percentage. I think, in this game, I lean Houston. I don't like Houston. It certainly isn't a play. But I lean Houston and the over. But Utah's a team that even if Houston wins this game handily, that they're another one of those teams that I'll be looking to play on if they're down 0-2 going back to Houston, where the Rockets are only shooting under 45% on the road.
Interesting. All right, Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Ralph, if you are a fan of 1990s basketball, then you loved the Celtics and the Indiana Pacers this week, barely scoring 70 and 80 points. Oh, my God, was that horrific. That set basketball back 20 years, that game. But we look at tonight's game. Here they go, round 2. The same number again. The Celtics were a 7.5, 8-point favorite in game 1. They're a 7.5, 8-point game in number 2. I think the total's a little lower now based upon them going under 52 points there on game 1. But even at 202, 203 right now, is it too low? Should people be enamored by the fact that, well, guys, you were at 212 and now you're at 202? Maybe there's some value on the under?
Well, it's actually 206.5.
Oh, it's gone out. Okay, good.
And to be honest with you, I still think the under's still the way to go, and I still think Boston's the way to go. And it's just for matchups. And, the playoffs are matchups. And you look at what Boston's done, and Boston has not been able to turn on the switch the entire season. And do I think they've turned the switch on now? No. But when you're playing the Pacers, who have been without Oladipo, the Pacers have been such a fake team because they've beaten bad teams, but they've lost to good teams. And in fact, Indiana, the last 28 games where they played a team that had a winning record, they are 5-23 over/under. They cannot score. They cannot keep pace. When you shut down when you shut down their hot scorer, whoever it be that night, they don't have enough. And this is the same Celtics team that, if you remember, last year got to the finals against Cleveland with defense. And that was without Kyrie Irving, and that was without Hayward, who were both out and injured. So Jaylen Brown, someone who's now in the starting lineup because Marcus Smart is out. Marcus Smart's one of their biggest defensive presences, but they don't need him against Indiana because they don't have enough weapons. So I think we're going to find where Boston, I think, can sweep this series. Indiana may take game 3, but I don't even know if that's the case. But Boston's a team that, because this matchup was so good for them with Oladipo out, that I think they'll be overvalued moving to the next round, where we might be able to play against them. And any team that has any type of decent offense against them, like Milwaukee, we'll see what happens. But I think it's play on the Celtics for this series and look to at least fade them, especially on the road the next series.
Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Ralph, are you finding any correlation between the game lines right now and maybe some series pricing? If you haven't bet a future on the series going one way or the other, is there a time to jump in if you want to go ahead and do that? I mean, should you be looking at maybe the Brooklyn Nets, for instance? I'm seeing here plus 300, plus 305 in some places. Is there any value with jumping into a series price right now?
Well, I certainly do. There was nothing that came up to me this time, because when I look at series, I am basically saying, I think a team is going to win a series and I don't want to pay a price. A perfect example was OKC this year. OKC was a favorite to win the series, even though they were the higher seed and even though Portland had home court advantage. OKC had won all 4 regular season meetings. And, with the injuries on Portland, people thought OKC would be able to take care of that series. And I believe they're a 180 favorite to start. But OKC had the issues with Paul George. He could barely lift his arm. He said he was healthy for last night's game, but he wasn't. But now you got a couple more days off, and OKC, I think if you're going to take some team, I think OKC is a team that can win at home, get that confidence back, get George healthy, go back to Portland and win where they won in the regular season. I think there is a good deal of value with them. Obviously, it's not going to be a good bet, but with the lines you're getting now. But oftentimes that, if I have a team that I like and they lose game one, I then like to jump on them. Toronto's an example now. Toronto's a team that after they lost to Orlando, they were a team that I said there's now value betting on them because the series price came down so much. Well, Toronto now, in their last 16 NBA playoff series, they are 2-14 straight up.
Wow.
And, most of those were at home early on. They were in a high seed the last few years. And now you even have a new head coach and you lose to Orlando. So that's just one of those inexplicable things. How can you be a high seed, be a big favorite, and be 2-14 straight up in the series? So, just one of those numbers to throw out that there's no rhyme or reason as to why, but something gets in Toronto's head game one that, Lowry went 0 for,
right?
And who knows what the answer is, but next series, it's certainly something you have to think about game one, even if you do like them.
All right, so tonight we've got Utah, Houston. You've got Detroit, Milwaukee. You've got Indiana, Boston. People are looking at this Milwaukee game, and you mentioned no Blake Griffin, no nothing. People are worried sometimes about they see that number 15, and I've heard from a bunch of people like, oh no, that's too many points. Like I can't. Meanwhile, game one, by the time Detroit got to 60, they were already 100 at Milwaukee there. Are people, especially the novices, do they get too caught up in those double digits like a 15 tonight with Milwaukee?
Well, the thing is that we've not had numbers like this. The NBA hasn't had these elite teams. I'm going back since 2010. And since 2010, we're 2018 playoffs, so 8 seasons now, there's only been 23 favorites of 12 or more in the playoffs. They've gone 20-3 straight up. They've gone 12-11 against the spread. But in those, as I'm looking at the lines, there's only been 4 other games with a line the 15 or higher.
Wow.
And those were the Spurs against the Grizzlies back in 2015 and the Cavs against the Celtics last year. Remember, that was, again, we talked, no Hayward, no Kyrie.
Nothing.
We didn't know what the Celtics were going to do.
Right.
And the Cavs actually lost that game as a 16.5-point favorite, 111-108.
Wow.
So, again, we're not used to seeing this type of numbers. You're even up, but when you have a team that, like Milwaukee, that's so dominant, if you look at Milwaukee statistically, they were plus 9.5 points per game. Put that in perspective. Golden State this year was plus 6.3 or 6.4 points per game. Their effectiveness in offense and defense have them in the top 5 in both. So, the numbers clearly state that. And if I had a bet aside, I would be betting Milwaukee. Like I said, if I were forced to pick a side,
right,
the line's not going to affect me because Detroit doesn't have enough offense to score. I would think clearly if you like Detroit, you're going to like the under. And if you like, Milwaukee, you might not like the over, but you certainly wouldn't favor the under because you're thinking to cover a 15-point spread. If Detroit gets to 90, you have to get to 105. That still leaves you room under.
Right.
So, even though if you like Detroit, you like the under, it doesn't mean you would like the over with Milwaukee because Detroit is a team that might only score 90 points. And can Milwaukee get to 105? Milwaukee can get to 105 all day long.
Right.
So, one thing I will point out is that looking through the database now, since 2010, when a team is a 12-point or more double-digit favorite, the average score in the first quarter is 28.1 to 21.3.
Wow.
So that's 6.8. So you're clearly going to cover any first quarter bet
Right.
with an average score of that. So perhaps if you don't like laying that number, Milwaukee's not going to lay an egg. This is still a new playoff team. This is still a crowd that's going to be excited. I remember the Cavs. I mean, the first few years in the playoffs, every playoff game is exciting.
Yeah.
Last year when you're in Cleveland or now when you're in Golden State, who cares about the second? You might want to go to the first game to watch them get a ring like they did at Golden State. They won and covered. But who cares about the second home game in the playoff series against an 8 seed? Well, in Milwaukee, you do. You do care about those early games. And I think that's something you have to put into your handicapping as well as how experienced is this? How experienced are the fans knowing, we're going to get there, or this is still a thrill to go to a Milwaukee Bucks playoff game?
Love that. Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. 3 games on tap here tonight. And, of course, some teams finally getting ready to go home. Brooklyn, Philadelphia, they get to go and finally, San Antonio gets to go home. Of any of the series that you've already seen here, Ralph, is there a favorite you think maybe in trouble? Do you think Philadelphia might be in trouble here, depending on what happens on the road here in Brooklyn? Do you think Denver might be in trouble trying to play at a place like, San Antonio, which they almost never lose? Which one of these favorites does give you the most pause right now?
Oh, I still would, I still like the Spurs. There's no question. Denver did well at home, doing what they did coming back in that game. And the Philadelphia one, I mean, I look at Philadelphia and I'm impressed with what they've done because I could have thrown Philadelphia in the trash can. I mean, when you have a team, I mean, I don't know how big of a deal it was in the national media. I mean, I don't pay attention to that. But when you have a player bringing a cell phone on the bench and talking about it during a game, a playoff game, that means to me your coach has not earned the respect of these players. I mean, this is what I mean. In high school, you wouldn't bring a phone on a bench, let alone a playoff game. I mean, in an all-star game, yes, but to me, that just shows exactly what they had, and they had some issues. And Butler said Embiid shouldn't be playing unless he's 100% healthy. And when you have one player talking about another player playing or not, but Philadelphia is just so much better that I think they get by Brooklyn. I couldn't bet Brooklyn in the series. But, certainly San Antonio, when you have Pop, I mean, Pop's worth a lot. Yeah. And, can he get him done? We'll see. So, I didn't hear you mention the Clippers. No one wants to bet that Clippers.
I don't know. And that's another thing. I mean, what do you take from a 31-point defeat there that you allowed the Clippers to do it on your home court? Does it just piss does it piss them off to the point where they're like, all right, enough is enough? Do you awake the sleeping giant, or is there something more to this, especially now losing Boogie Cousins?
Well, I think that's part of the reason they lost the lead is, you see one of your guys go down and you knew it was a bad injury, and those guys probably knew he was out at that point. So that changes the momentum a lot. We see it in football very often when the stretcher comes out, how a team can lose momentum when they're up and let it slide away. But, people aren't talking about Golden State, how sloppy they were. And they had, in those 2 games against the Clippers, yes, they won and covered the first game. They had 21 turnovers against the Clippers. In the loss, they had 22 turnovers. And for people who don't follow the NBA stats, well, since the beginning of February, Golden State only had over 18 turnovers in one game, and that was against Denver. Wow. And so to have back-to-back 20-plus turnovers is something that most teams do. And just to let you know, playoff teams, in a playoff game, if a team has 20 or more turnovers, they're only 37 and 78, 32.2% against the spread.
Wow.
So it concerns me Golden State has had 20-plus turnovers back-to-back games. Are they not focused? It could be. Did they lose focus with Boogies? Could be. They got their ring the first day. That's fine. they came back to win and cover. And game 2 maybe did wake them up. But I do have an eye-opening ATS stat for you, and it's in that game. So, let me mention it.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, if you're a top 3 seed and you're off a loss by 4 or more points as a favorite of 4 or more points.
Okay.
Golden State lost by, I think, 4. Golden State was a 14-point favorite. So clearly they were over a 4-point favorite. And in this game, you're a 4-point favorite or more. So clearly we're talking about Golden State. This is since 1989.
Okay.
1 through 3 seed, lose by 4 or more as a 4 or more point favorite, and now you're a 4-point favorite in this game. 60 wins against the spread, 18 losses against the spread, and 1 push. 76.9% angle on the Golden State Warriors against the Clippers game 3.
What does that tell you? Yeah, I guess maybe the sleeping giant there is what that is all about. That's a crazy number. Anytime you start talking 70% since the late 80s, early 90s, Ralph, that's what you call an edge, isn't it?
Yeah, you have number 1, the longevity. Number 2, does it make sense? Absolutely, it makes sense. I'll call it the sleeping giant system. And it just goes to show you. And again, we know that with Golden State, everyone talks about their offense, but they're going to pride themselves on defense. And when their starting 5 is on the court together, Boogie Cousins was not a starter. He was a 6th man. When the other 5 are on the starting court together, they have the best defensive efficiency in the NBA by over 7 points per game over any other 5 people in the NBA.
Wow.
They can be an elite team defensively, and giving up 135 points at home, I think, wakes them up, especially defensively. We know they can get their points from numerous people, but I look for a Golden State convincing win. I probably will play them first quarter. I'll split my bet between first quarter, first half, and full game.
Love that. Ralph Michaels, wagertalk.com. Certainly, guys, I encourage you, make sure you're tailing him on Twitter, @CalSportsLV. Always great information coming from Ralph. And, don't look now, Ralph. You got the NFL schedule it's leaking out all over the place. We've got, you got the draft coming up. There's all sorts of, anything on the college front come around here in college football. What is the time frame we're looking for some of these things? Are there some spring games right now going on? What's happening college football wise?
Well, there are a lot of spring games, and actually Sports Betting AG opened up some of their Game of the Year numbers.
Ooh.
And I'll shoot down a couple here just that have moved a lot. So when you guys are working on your spring numbers and thinking about where you might put the lines, season opens up Saturday the 24th.
Okay.
And Florida opened up as an 8.5-point favorite against Miami of Florida. That line is now 7.5.
Wow.
One of the games that moved quite a bit, LSU at Texas. That's a neutral game, actually. LSU opened up at a 7-point favorite a couple weeks ago. That's now LSU -3 against Texas.
Damn.
Clemson opened up 21 against Texas A&M on September the 7th.
Okay.
That is now Clemson -15 against Texas A&M.
Wow.
Texas A&M opened up 7 against Auburn. That is now Texas A&M -3.5 against Auburn.
That's big swings.
And they obviously had Michigan higher than most people probably will have. They opened up Michigan 14.5 against Michigan State. Of course, we know what Little Brother's done to them recently.
Mm-hmm.
That is now 10.5.
Wow.
And they opened up Michigan 6.5 against Ohio State. You haven't beaten Ohio State in how many years? And they opened up 6.5. That is now down to -3. So I'm working on a lot of starters reports. I'll be emailing them to you. We could talk a lot about college football coming up, but that just gives some of our listeners some of the big games and early thoughts of where, where the lines are. Let me give you
That's crazy. Crazy movie.
Obviously, we gave you one, Clemson. Alabama this year is at Auburn on November the 30th.
Okay.
That is Alabama minus 14.
Wow, already already a 2-touchdown favorite. I absolutely love it. It's and they're going to be loaded. Great recruiting class again. It's just it never ends with that. I guess what is the buzz on Oklahoma? Obviously, with Jalen Hurts, their quarterback, losing Kyler Murray. Do you think the markets are going to react? Do you think they're going to go, hey, Lincoln Riley's just going to go ahead and you got an experienced graduate quarterback? Everything should be good to go in Oklahoma?
Well, these are from sportsbetting.ag.
Okay.
They're the ones that open these up, and then these are the changes. They opened up Oklahoma 21 against TCU on November the 23rd.
Okay.
And their customers bet that down to 15.
Wow. Okay. So there is love there.
Clearly still a double-digit favorite, but they had Oklahoma a little higher on the radar than some of the people that bet into them. But, I don't have my numbers yet. So, obviously I look and I knew that Ohio State number was crazy high and I would have bet into that. But
Right.
This is the earliest I've seen anyone post these numbers. And to be honest with you, I'm sorry to see them out because traditionally, either the Golden Nugget or the South Point out here would have a weekend where they post all their games of the year numbers.
Okay.
So by doing that, you would stand in a line and you could bet a max of $2,000 a game. You could bet 3 games. Then you have to go back to the end of the line and you just wait. But you could find some great value. But by these places putting these games out, the limits are probably only $100 a game.
Yep.
It gives those bookmakers an insight to what they think the public's going to do and slant some teams. So, there's still value always to be found because some bookmakers look at the information, some don't. But to me, I don't like seeing these numbers out this early, especially at the small limits, because it ruins some of those values for those big weekends when they come out where, I've really made a lot of good money in the past.
Yeah, look at that. Look at bookmakers trying to find an edge. What else is new? Like they need any more of that. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Ralph, one final before I let you go here. Hell of a wrap-up to the college basketball season. National champion Virginia, well-deserved. Awesome final. I'm wondering, though, of the coaching changes you have heard now, guys swapping out. Nevada, okay, I can't believe I even said that right there. That's the kind of influence you had. Nevada loses their coach. Was there one that you think was maybe better than the other, one you're excited about so far that you've seen swapping head coaching positions?
I really haven't. I follow Cincinnati a lot, being from Ohio. I really like, obviously they lost their coach, but getting Northern Kentucky's John Brennan is something I liked. It's tough for me to say. I mean, Steve Alford going to Nevada, you think is a big deal,
right?
But who knows? And UNLV has the change, getting the South Dakota head coach with TJ Osselberger. But to me, I would have to say,
I think the right guys got promoted. I mean, I think a lot of the mid-major guys that are moving on here, the Wofford, I mean, these guys, they deserved a next level job. They've done amazing things at the schools that they were at. I think that's fair enough to say. Yeah,
and you've seen some guys like at Loyola, Mosier, is going to now be paid a couple $1 million instead of going somewhere.
Yep.
I didn't think they'd really have the money to pay him that, but obviously, you get to the Sweet 16 and you have all the Sister Jean money.
Yeah.
There really is some money, but I think Mick Cronin's going to bring a heck of a work ethic to UCLA, and boy, they need it. So.
Yeah.
We'll see that happens. And, Nate Oates going from Buffalo to Alabama, I think that's sort of scary because when you're Buffalo and you have an NBA player like C.J. Massenberger, well, yeah, you're going to do well in the MAC and you're going to get some. But playing in the SEC, in a very improved SEC now with Auburn and Tennessee and Kentucky and LSU and Florida, I think that's a tough spot for him. Tim Miles, Hoiberg. Hoiberg is a guy I like going to Nebraska. He is one that I guess if I'm thinking through the list that he might make it well. But you got guys trying to replace Fran Duffy at Temple.
Oof.
When you're replacing one of those legends kind of guys,
tough.
Mike Young having to replace Buzz Williams at Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are going to have tough goes at it, just trying to step in and fill that type of program.
Yep, it's going to be it was a hell of a season. You got a lot of guys declaring for the draft. Who's your top two? Zion, obviously. Who do you have number two, you think, goes in the draft here?
I thought it was going to be Barrett and Zion the whole year, but I'm not one to look at college talent and knows how it translates into the NBA, and I don't pretend to. Obviously, you saw what oh my gosh, his name slips my mind.
The Virginia, Guy went there, and most of the Virginia guys
did. The smaller school kid. Morant.
Sorry. Yeah, John Morant. Yep.
A lot of people have Morant as number two, and is he going to be a Steph Curry? Well, no, but obviously people think he has that type of talent. So I hear Morant's name now thrown in that slot, that he's pushed his way up there. But it's something that I don't pretend to know, or it doesn't make me any money handicapping it, because I can't make any money translating into it. So I just wait to see what happens and follow it. So people that I think are good, and
some of those kids made themselves some money, I would think, like some of the kids on Virginia and certainly Texas Tech. I think the further they went in the tournament, maybe the more money they're going to end up making themselves, possibly in the draft.
Well, yeah, I think we're going to see just from what I've read, we're going to have fewer foreign players. There's always some foreign players that pop in there that people don't know about. And, you're going to have, Bol, Manute Bol's son, who only played 7 games. And, as a freshman, he played 7 games, and he's going to come out. And, where else do you find, there's not many 7'2" or 3 guys,
That's true.
Tackle Falls, if he comes out, who knows if he's ready physically. But, there's people that are going to take flyers on him. And, you look at the NBA draft, and you look how many people really are part of a team, and it's only a handful.
It really is.
Zion's going to be, Zion might sign the richest deal in the history of tennis shoes or sports companies here. And, to me, you want to talk about, you wish he was one and done. There's an instance there that he completely benefited from playing in college a year.
Huge.
He's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars more than he ever would. He would have been a one and done guy. He would have come out after high school.
Yep.
And he would have been paid handsomely. But, now he's going to have the biggest endorsement contract in the history of the NBA, where, there's clearly a lot to be said about those kids who do, instead of going straight from high school to college, can make a lot more money by going to college, and he is the epitome of that.
Yeah, great college season. It's going to be a fun finish to the NBA playoffs, and then, of course, before you know it, we've got college football, and we've got NFL, we got training camps. It's all just a couple of months away here, guys. In the meantime, Ralph is hard at work getting the numbers ready, getting us ready for the college season. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. And, Ralph, we'll talk, the draft coming up. I know you'll have some of those prop bets for us, too, that we'll touch base with you here next week or so, and try to put together maybe a plan moving forward, because that's always a lot of fun, too, NFL draft night.
Oh, absolutely. And the draft has become a big business out here. And you know what, Joe? We'll a suggestion for you, and perhaps have Marco on for a little Kentucky Derby pod coming up in a couple weeks here.
Doing that too, baby. You know how we love the ponies. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Ralph, always a pleasure talking to you, my friend. Don't work so hard. Take a little time off, and then we'll talk again soon, man.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it, bud.
You got it. All right, good stuff, Ralph Michaels. Thank you very much, wagertalk.com. And already, guys, it is time to start talking some college football. I can't believe it. It seems like it was just here yesterday, but it is on its way back. Plenty going on there, and nobody better to cover it than our man, Ralph Michaels. Wagertalk.com, at CalSportsLV. Make sure you guys are tailing him. All right, we got plenty to get to here over the next couple of minutes. I want to get you the trendybets.com. Their plays of the day. Want to remind you also, if you have not done so, go ahead, get yourself a book opened up here, and go open up an account at uwager.eu. Why is that important? Well, guys, if you haven't noticed, shopping numbers is actually pretty damn important. And if you don't get the right number, ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to go ass broke, and you're going to wonder, what the hell happened? I thought I won a whole bunch of games this week. Yeah, well, you win some games, but then you lose a bunch of games, and the juice is absolutely going to kill you. So you've got to make sure you get the right number. That's what you're doing. Go ahead, call them right now, 1-800-UWAGER. That's 1-800-UWAGER. Write down that code, JRS50. Get yourself a 50% deposit bonus match right now at UWAGER, 1-800-UWAGER. Get it going. And don't forget here also tonight, we got our man here, the Sports Keg CEO. I don't know if he's over his toothache or not here, but he's going to have another one of those KEGCASTs, or at least he's going to try to. Either way, the best way to do it here, guys, is to make sure that you tail him at the Sports Keg CEO. He will always let you guys know on Twitter when these are coming, and he usually does them daily. Been a little bit under the weather, but these guys are up over 90 units here over the last 2 months, doing some live in-game wagering on YouTube, and everyone's invited. That's the best part about this. Jay's been doing an amazing job. Definitely support him, guys. Follow him at the Sports Keg CEO, and make sure that you guys check out the next KEGCAST coming to a YouTube channel near you. All right, now let me check out here, because I know our friends at Trendy Bets went ahead and sent us a couple of plays. Let me just double check, make sure I've got them here. All right, here we go. Play number one. We're going to look at the Pirates and Tigers here tonight, guys. Pittsburgh is definitely the favorite in this here now. Let me just double check exactly what the Pittsburgh line is. Pittsburgh minus 110, and it looks like that is exactly who TrendyBets.com wants you guys to go with. They are going to pick the Pirates over the Tigers here tonight. And, of course, in the NBA, they are looking at Pacers, Celtics, Boston, now up to 8.5, some books. Total is 206.5, 207. You heard Ralph talk about it there. They're going to like the Celtics at 7.5 tonight here. Those are your two TrendyBet.com free plays of the day. One in the NBA. Celtics lay the number if you can get it back down to 7.5. I know it's creeping up in some places. The over, too, has gotten up there, 206, 206.5. Go ahead, take the Celtics according to Trendy Bets, as well as the Pirates tonight, laying $110 there to win 100. The Pirates taking on the Tigers, taking care of business in extra innings last night. Will they do the same tonight? Don't know, but that's what Trendy Bets has a feeling on, and who are we to argue, since they are 5-1 so far this week on what's going on. So congratulations to Trendy Bets, and good luck to you guys here tonight. Again, make sure you guys are following our good friend Ralph Michaels at wagertalk.com, also at CalSportsLV. Make sure you guys join us again tomorrow, another edition of Make It Rain the morning after on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Enjoy the games here tonight, guys. If you didn't get a chance to see Ralph's selections and his interpretation of the trends and angles heading into tonight's NBA matchup, the video is here. Make sure you guys check it out. Some valuable information before you lay any bets tonight. That's what Ralph does, man. He dissects it, brings it down, and makes sure that we all understand it, and we all have an understanding of where he's going. A lot of unders here tonight for Ralph. That's the direction he's going. Make sure you guys check out the video here. Come back and join us tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. And, of course, more cappers, more winners, more ways to make it rain. That's what we do here. It's the Joe Raineri Show. Good luck here tonight, guys. May it rain all over you. Good luck.